People are very, very, very bad listeners, okay? We tend not to be able to pick up the psychological language. In fact, people are such bad listeners, we invented a robot to do this. And he's called Bob. And Bob is very, very bright. He's really, really annoying because he's never wrong. And every single time, he gives the same figures, whatever you ask him to do. So he reads things like free text research, transcripts, social conversations, online inputs, whatever you stick in front of him. With Graham, he listened to 1 million words from US voters before the last election. He's capable of dealing with vast amounts of data. The more people talk, the more they reveal of themselves. And basically, he listens to the rivals to put things into context. He listens to customers, and we also listen to the brand. So I'm going to give you those examples. Okay. So we've got a client that comes up to us and they've got 3 brands and they say, look, we don't really understand what makes a malt whiskey a malt whiskey. Now, a malt whiskey is a premium whiskey. A single malt whiskey comes from one distillery and it's up against a cheaper competitor which has a little bit of malt whiskey and then is mixed with a cheaper grain whiskey. So a malt whiskey is a premium product costing 2 to 3 times to 5,000 times as much as a blended whiskey. So we were asked to say, what do we do? How do we differentiate these brands? And how do we anchor them and make sure they don't drift away too far away from being a malt whiskey? So we analysed the things that they were talking about. You could see they use 225% more sensory language than than business as a whole. So the background benchmark here is all businesses, we've got a background benchmark of 265 brands across 32 categories. So we understand how a category is working here. We divide these things into what goes in and what comes out. But we also do the visual side as well. And I can't tell you the number of barrels we looked at. I mean, it's just constant. So this is one of the anchors, right? And we've discovered these brands are very, very similar. But what I want to share with you is 2 big things about a sensory narrative and a picture narrative about what makes a malt whiskey a malt whiskey. The first one, there is a big thing about changing something rough to smooth. So this is a setting of rough terrain look at this. It's hard, it's tough. There's big beefy men and they're bashing stuff around. And then it goes in to these smooth copper stills and it comes out smooth. And the bottles are very often embossed as a sort of reminder of that of the roughness from the outside. So there is a transition from rough to smooth that goes on right the way through this process. But there is something even more important. What is malt whiskey? This is something totally different from any other form of whiskey, totally different to a rum, totally different for vodkas, okay? And malt whiskies are a religion, and each of the brands is a monastic order. Let me show you how that works. All of these people have remote locations and founding myths. There's a story in there. People are daring. They are always showing these places miles away from anywhere. As our semiotics experts said, you cannot get to these places by EasyJet. You go by horse and cart for 7 days, and the last 2 days you have to walk across a bog. But they play on this remoteness, and they have loads of strong, quiet male communities that are dedicated to their daily tasks. And if you look at this, there is always light shining into the darkness. Okay, but at the top is, and each order has these unique resources and rituals. We're the only ones still growing all of our barley right next to the distillery. We're the only ones with the stream. It's absolutely extraordinary. And there's a head man, of course. In the home of the Pope, there's always got to be a head man, the only person who understands all of the mysteries. And it normally is a man. This is a very, very masculine world, although 40% of single malts are drunk by women. Why the hell are they ignoring them? What's extraordinary is you could go on a pilgrimage. They ask you to come there, and they've got these fabulous, fabulous loyalty schemes. These loyalty schemes where you can become a landlord or join the committee. You know, you can actually, by drinking Lefroy, have a square foot of the island, and you can go there, and they'll mark it for you, and you put your little flag in. And people do this from all around the world. And the fruits of their labours are always glowing. Okay, now this is an extraordinarily strong story for us to be able to say, okay, this is what single malt whiskies are. So with one of their brands, which is from the city, how do we start to anchor it? It's powerful stuff. It's really powerful stuff. We're even able to show them how the blended whiskies are different to the malt whiskies. Okay, different times of day. So we analyze things like change states. We analyze things about social connections just by listening to people. And we've listened to consumers here by analyzing their reviews. Okay, 35,000 words of reviews. We didn't even read them. Bob read them and said, here's what's important in them. Okay. Answers without asking questions. If we're on the monastic order, it's the Holy Grail. Being able to understand people without asking questions. And they were saying, back to senses, there's some really obvious stuff here. You know, so the branding green, I cannot tell you about the branding green, but some people hate it. It's a very, very strong flavour, and some people absolutely love it. And the whole thing is about a conversation about the taste. But the client was saying originally in their brand brief, it's not